2.4, more about linear equations. The main topic here is point-slope form. Okay? That right there. So again, it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where m is your slope. You don't need the y-intercept to write this. Y equals mx plus b, you don't need it. So when they give you a point and a slope, you use point-slope form. See how that works? So now, how do you do this? Well, y is always y minus, what's my y? 2. Equals my slope, which is 3/5, times x is always x, and then it's x minus x of 1. Because it's a negative 5, it's going to be minus a negative 5, but that becomes plus, but we'll get there in a second. So then y minus 2 equals, distribute your 3/5 x. Make that a plus a positive, 3/5 x plus 3. Now solve. Add 2. Add 2, y equals 3/5 x plus 5. There's your slope. That's your y-intercept. Next is writing it given 2 points now. So you still getting a point, and you'll have to find the slope. So let's do that first. Slope equals, change the y, change the x. Again, we talked about this. It doesn't matter where you start. 8 minus 2 over 5 minus 3. Which gives me 6 over 2, or a slope of 3. Now the last one I put in the slope-intercept form. They want me to leave the equation line in point-slope form. I want to see how they related. So I'm just going to take my slope, pick a point. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to take that point, that slope. Y minus the y, which is 2, equals my slope, which is 3, times x minus 3. And this is the answer in point-slope form. So now we've talked about slope-intercept form, we've talked about point-slope form, now we're going to talk about standard form. Notice here, what's different? Well, x and y are on the same side of the equation now. Also, a, b, and c are real numbers, and a and b are not both 0. Okay, so again, we want this fraction gone too. So when I'm looking at this, what I need to do is get the x and y's on the same side. So I need to subtract 3/4 x from both sides. So I get negative 3/4 x plus y equals negative 5. Now I need to get rid of this fraction because that's what standard form is. So how do I get rid of 4 in the denominator? Is I'm going to multiply everything by 4. That's going to cancel that 4 there. But in order to do that, I have to multiply every single thing by 4. That gives me negative 3x plus 4y equals negative 20. That's my standard form. Again, here's a little rundown of the types of forms for equations of lines. As you can see, slope-intercept we talk about. This is point-slope form. Now remember, we can go to slope-intercept from point-slope form, but they're the same thing there. And then standard form here. Now we talked yesterday about graphing equations in slope-intercept form. Here, we're going to talk about graphing them in integral form. So if it's right here, you could solve for y and go through the slopes and stuff like that, but it's really kind of easy, where if you just cover up the y, let's cover up the y, I end up with 3x equals 15. We'll solve for x, divide by 3, you get x equals 5. So that's my x-intercept. So I'm going to go over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on the x-intercept, or on the x-axis, and put a dot. Now, let's erase that. Let's cover up the x now. What do I see? I see 5y equals 15. Divide by 5, y equals 3. So I'm going to go up 3, put a dot, there. There's my graph of this equation. It's a little bit easier than trying to do it solving for y. The next thing we get into this chapter, they're kind of throwing everything all at you here in one chapter, so I apologize, but are parallel lines and perpendicular lines, and this is nothing new. Okay, and they give you all these things about the reciprocals, and everything else like that, multiplying it together to equal -1 and this and that. But the important thing to remember is parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines are negative reciprocals. Now what that means is if you have 1/2, the slope of something is 1/2, the perpendicular slope, negative reciprocal of 1/2 is -2/1. or just -2. So how can we use that? It says the line parallel to y equals x minus 2. Again, when you get this and they want it just parallel to this stuff doesn't matter. Cross it off. All I care about is the slope is 6, okay, and it goes through the point 1, -3. So I'm going to use point slope, to go from there. So y minus a -3, or y plus 3, equals my slope of 6 minus x minus 1. Now solve. Distribute your 6 through. You get y plus 3 equals 6x minus 6. Subtract 3. Y equals 6x minus 9. That is parallel to that original equation. If I'm talking perpendicular, again, I don't care about any of this stuff. All I care about is that slope was -4. My perpendicular slope then is going to be positive 1/4. Again, point slope, we're going to use point slope. Y minus my y, which is 5, equals m times x minus my x, which is 8. Distribute your 4 through. Y minus 5 equals 1/4 x minus 2. Add 5. Y equals 1/4 x plus 3.